Stainless steel is not always stainless. It should be stainless, but it's not. It can corrode, and when it corrodes, it really stops being stainless. The nice thing about stainless steel, which is also, you can say, the weakness, that's the chromium oxide film covering the surface and making sure it stays nice and shiny and bright. And this chromium oxide is only 10 nanometers, but it actually works as a perfect paint. And even if it's broken, it rebuilds itself and it's just as stainless as it is before. But if we stress the steel, usually by chemical means, with a very corrosive media, then it can corrode. And the types of corrosion which we usually see in stainless steel are 5 different ones. One of them is called general corrosion or acid corrosion, and it takes place if the steel is exposed to very strong acids. The classic is sulfuric acid, maybe phosphoric acid, maybe a pickling bath, and so. And in this one we have the metal dissolution. The anode reaction is taking place all over the steel, and so is the cathode with the electron consumer, the electron eater. And this bolt, which has been sitting in a pickling bath for 12 weeks, very clearly suffers from general corrosion. It's not a very common type of corrosion, but if you choose that your stainless steel is going to be exposed to, like I said, sulfuric acid, the stronger the worse, at least up to 50%, and the higher the temperature, the worse. Then that's what to expect. The second type of corrosion is called intergranular corrosion, and that's a type of corrosion which is kind of, you can say, it's a kind of endangered species. That's a corrosion answer to the panda. Why? Because it depends highly on the amount of the carbon in the steel. Because carbon binds chromium, and this causes local weaknesses. But fortunately, in our days, unlike the 70s and 80s, the mills are very, very good at lowering the carbon down below 0.03%. And at that percentage, this just doesn't happen. So it's a kind of antique type of corrosion, which doesn't really exist anymore. A very common one, though, that's pitting corrosion. And pitting corrosion, we have a very neat example here, which is from a tube at the outlet of a heat exchanger. And if we get very close, which I am here, you can see that it's been attacked by pinholes, very small holes. It's a bit like somebody has shot the steel. And it's because we have a local activation and the rest of the steel stays passive. So we get the loss of material is quite small compared to especially general corrosion, but the time to penetration is very fast. It's sadly a very, very common type of corrosion. And in general, it's so that the higher the chloride, the higher the temperature, the worse are the conditions. And we fight it by usually add a lot of chromium and a lot of molybdenum to the steel. Closely related to the pitting corrosion is the one called crevice corrosion, like we see on this flange. It's quite a fantastic example, actually. It's from a so-called acid-proof stainless steel, the 316 class, the 4401 class, which has been exposed to seawater, which is generally a very bad idea. And here we see why. We see, especially here in the gasket face, the corrosion has really started attacking the steel. Whereas the rest of the steel, nothing really happens, and the main tube, nothing really happens. It's slower type of corrosion as compared to the pitting corrosion, but penetration will happen. It just takes a little more time. It's just like being a little, you cannot be just a little bit pregnant. When you are pregnant, it usually goes all the way to the end. Finally, in my opinion, the most beautiful, you can say from an architectonical point of view, type of corrosion, but from a technical point of view, by far the most devastating, that's called stress corrosion cracking. And this tube, it's a very, very nice example of stress corrosion cracking. It's a type of corrosion which is initiated by static stress in the steel, combined with a media, and usually this media is a combination, like pitting and crevice corrosion, by the way, between the chloride concentration and the temperature. But here temperature plays a very large role, and just above 60-70 degrees, the classic 304 type, the 4301 type, is very much in danger. And we see a very beautiful example here. It causes penetration in a time span of just a weekend, and it cannot be repaired. So if you get stress corrosion, cracking, maybe you have to discard a tank which costs several $1 million. It's so much cheaper to pick the right steel in the beginning. And usually that means a lot of molybdenum, a lot of nickel, and a lot of chromium, all the good stuff. So basically we have 5 different types of corrosion which attack stainless steel. And of these ones, the stress corrosion cracking is by far the worst, pitting and crevice corrosion as well. General corrosion, intergranular corrosion, usually not. So to keep the steel stainless, beware these ones. Pick the right type of stainless steel so that nothing happens, nothing initiates. Stainless steel is not always stainless, make sure it is.